Good evening. Welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for May 22nd, 2018. Could I like to call a meeting to order? Could I get a roll call, please?
Cindy King is present.
Wayne Miller present.
And Sulicio is present. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded and ask, is anybody else taping it? No? Okay. Just let us know if you'd like to. Chairman's additions or deletions, we have none that I'm aware of. Okay, 2.1, appoint Todd Arsenault to the America Flag Committee, is that correct?
To be American.
American. Effective May 22nd. That should be 2018. Do I have a motion?
I move that we appoint Todd Arsenault to the American Flag Committee effective May 22nd, 2018.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.1, review and sign proclamation for National Police Week and National Peace Officers Memorial Day. Did
I signed it last week.
you signed it last week?
Updated it.
Oh, okay.
And you updated?
Signing.
So do we have a motion on this?
I move that we review and sign the proclamation for National Police Week and National Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, second. I'm reading
Moved
it.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was the one they did last week, right? Oh.
It was,
No, the police had their ceremony.
yes,
Yes, they did.
I was at that one. So.
Thank you for that.
3.2, review and discuss mandatory referral from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We actually had more, we had 3 of them. Special permit accessory apartment, 101 Warren Road. Special permit expand pre-existing non-conforming structure at 2 Scott Road. And special permit addition to a pre-existing non-conforming structure at 250 Main Street. Do I have a motion?
I have a question first.
Sure.
What do we normally do with these mandatory referrals? Is it just a formality, or?
We don't do anything.
We usually just say thank you and no comment.
Okay. So I'd make a motion this.
Mm-hmm.
I make a motion that we thank the zoning board for the referral and have no comment at this time.
Second that.
Moved and seconded, and this is for all 3 of them, right? There's
Yes,
no
all 3.
difference, right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.3, review and approve and sign a 1-day special license for, and there are 2 of them, Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, in conjunction with a celebration of life to be held on June 2nd, 2018, with sale hours from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And 3.3.2, Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, in conjunction with a birthday party to be held on May 25th, 2018, with sale hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We can do these together, right? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve and sign the 1-day special licenses for both applications from Terry Roy, one on June 2nd from 1 to 5, one on May 25th from 6 to 10.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve both of them. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.1,
No?
board liaison assignments and discussion. Did,
We have a list?
yeah, well, I had the list from last year. Give us 1 minute, please.
Everybody got an extra copy?
I might have, I don't know if I did that or not. Give it a second.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we're on the second page.
This is the one that I had from last year. Can you grab a couple copies for me? Thank you, sorry. The one thing that, I mean, I know it's within my job, I guess, as chair to assign liaison roles. Do you guys have any preferences?
I think
know
we
that-
usually have them divided, I mean, it's pretty standard that,
Well, yeah, but it
Well, we-
wasn't really totally standard last year either, so.
oh, I don't know. I'd have to look at the list to see, but there's usually in certain groupings to, the chair is liaison for some groups, and the clerk is for some, and the vice chair is for some other ones. You do?
I mean, when I was on before, we broke with tradition, if you will, so I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I was going to suggest that, partially because I feel like I haven't really paid as much attention to the assignments that I had last year as I would like to, that I keep the general government ones that I had. And if you're comfortable with staying with yours,
What am
then...
I?
You were listed as Public Works elected boards, commissions, officials.
Oh,
That's the
as vice chair, okay,
Yeah.
so, all right.
And,
So I thought you said you wanted to change them?
well, no, that's
Okay.
it's changing the tradition of moving them from one year to the next is what I'm
Oh, I
suggesting.
thought you were gonna
Let's just stay with...
shuffle them.
Stay with what we have, if that's comfortable. The only thing that was missing, I think, when this was assigned and never really got done, was IT. So my suggestion, if you don't mind doing public safety, the...
Oh, you already saw, gave me that already, so. With the communications,
Oh, I don't mind.
fire and police communications, the meeting we had talking about a liaison for the police chief and fire chief for the,
Oh, for the others.
dispatch,
Yeah,
yes.
for the dispatch thing. Yeah, so it makes sense then.
that's fine.
But as the regular liaison for them is what I'm saying. And do you want to take IT?
Yeah, unfortunately, I know way too much about it.
I know, you know more than I do, so we're going to put IT under. So the only thing really that's changing is it'll be Wayne, and Wayne will also take on IT, and then what's listed for Cindy and I will stay the same. Does that
We'll make
sound
the edits.
okay? I do have a question about this form. When we received it, and nothing ever ended up happening, we actually got assigned emails for the town system, but then nothing ever ended up happening with it.
Right.
Was that because of the
I don't
state
want-
of the IT department at the time?
I thought it was more server related in the number
Yeah.
that
That's-
we had, but I can find out.
That's what I
tomorrow.
mean, it was IT
I'm happy
related.
not having one.
Yeah, I
have enough
mean,
email addresses, I don't need.
each of us have
You set up
a
your
separate
own
one
non-personal.
anyway, and I know when I talked to, I think I would talk to ethics at one point, or open meeting people, and they said, oh, that's fine, I'm glad you guys are doing that, so.
So we'll update it with your
Are-
individual but non-personal
Right, our individual ones that we've set up, because you did the same thing,
I
right?
did, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and I think
That's what
too,
council
like,
suggested.
once we're no longer on the board, our email address goes away. So there's no longer, well, I mean, the town has the record, but we can't we have to forward, if we want to save any emails with any, like, attachments and stuff, we'd have to send it to ourselves in order to keep it, so.
If you were doing the town one.
Yeah, if we did a town one, so if we just have a
Lose
personal
your whole
one, it's
file.
like, it lives beyond our term, so. All right.
Okay. So we don't need to vote on that, right? I don't think we need a vote. The only thing I'd like to talk about where liaison role is concerned is we really don't have the role defined. And I think it would be nice to do that, you know, not for tonight, but for maybe to go on to a work session
Yep,
where we might have another 2 or 3 things to go through.
Because that's not really in this policy. and
No,
procedure.
it's never, to my knowledge, been defined, and I think it's a good idea to talk it through and say exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think it's good for the people who we are interacting, liaisoning with, to have that written down as well, okay? I mean, when I was on before, it was kind of real informal, you know, how's things going, or somebody call and say, gee, I'm having trouble with this, can you help out? And I'd, okay, well, talk to so-and-so. So it was that kind of thing, but we can talk about that, okay? So you could put that on for a later date. Thank you. So that takes care of 4.1. 4.2, Green Communities Contract Extension. Jim?
Yep, this will allow the town to keep its Green Communities grant open. And this will be the companion piece to your vote at your last meeting to contract with MRPC to provide the oversight using the Green Communities admin funds. This is for the $202,770 Green Communities grant award.
How much?
202,770, right in the middle of the page on the far right.
Oh, I see it. And how do we need to do this motion?
Just a vote
Just to approve it?
to approve the standard contract form to extend the Green Communities grant till May 31st of 2019.
I move that we sign the contract extension for the Green Communities Act.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just authorizing the chair, it's one signature.
And authorize the chair for one signature.
Second. On that as well.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any conversation? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Just one, Carolyn? Okay. 4.3, charter review discussion. I asked for this to be on the agenda just so that we could try to get back to where we were, what we were trying to do a few years ago. And it kind of just fell by the wayside. I'm not sure it was anybody's fault, but it just happened that way. We had at the time worked with town council and with the state to not only review the charter in terms of some changes, for example, taking out things that were redundant with state law, because you don't want to write something and then the law changes and then you have to go through a process of changing your local stuff. So referring to whatever the state was doing at the time, there were a lot of cleanups like that. We also reviewed, there had been a prior kind of review committee that had gone through and fixed punctuation and spelling errors and things like that, edits, if you will, that were never really taken care of. So we went through those. Cindy and I were both on the review committee, and we finished the whole process, and then we sent it to town council, and town council reviewed it all. The next step was the chair to share that with the selectmen, and that's where it kind of went. And really where it needed to go, it was supposed to go to the next town meeting for the town to vote on the changes. We didn't have any hearings, we didn't have the town meeting vote. Since then, I think there have been other things that have surfaced that have been questions that the community might have, that we would use an opportunity to again review, maybe starting with the work that was done by the previous two groups, and then take on, is there anything that's ambiguous or that we've had trouble with over the last couple of years or 3 years since we did that we would like clarified, and make sure that we're doing what the intent of the town is, or what the intent of the town vote is where the charter is concerned, because the charter is the umbrella over which we do everything else. I think it's a good time because we're working on the master plan. You know, everybody seems to be kind of working on the same kinds of things, and we shouldn't be working on something here that isn't already talked about in general at the charter level. So just making sure that umbrella, or the waterfall, if you will, is all working right. I'd like to reinstitute, if you will, a review committee. Cindy, do you remember how many we had last time?
It's
called
very
for in the charter.
specified in the charter itself
idea.
on what the review committee will consist of.
If I may, Madam Chair, it reads, at least once every 10 years, the Board of Selectmen shall establish a special committee to consist of 9 members for the purpose of reviewing this charter and to make a report with recommendations to the town meeting concerning any proposed amendments which said committee may determine to be necessary or desirable. The committee shall consist of 9 members who shall be chosen as follows: the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, the Council on Aging, and the Board of Library Trustees shall each designate 1 person. Finance Committee shall designate 2 persons, and 3 persons shall be appointed by the moderator. Persons appointed by said agencies may, but need not, be members of the agency by which they were designated. The committee shall meet to organize forthwith following the final adjournment of the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now, yeah.
But I think you had left the committee before we were finished. I can't remember what was going on, but I don't remember you. I think you might have, yeah.
Yeah, it was just before you were
Yeah.
done with it.
And what we had after, as I recall, I've got it all, I've got like this couple of packets of all the drafts and the notes and the comments. I think there's 2 major issues that had occurred back then. One, I believe that what Jim just read, even though we were sitting on the Charter Review Committee, we didn't read that section. If I may laugh about it, which is probably not that funny, but we didn't, our appointments, the people on the committee didn't need that definition. We weren't appointed. We were appointed, I think, mostly by the Board of Selectmen. I don't know that each of those committees or boards had any, we didn't meet the composition.
No, I think we did.
Well, I don't think so. I think that was the first issue that came up, as far as who appointed whom. Which I think one of the problems from that was we had a trouble getting people that wanted to be on it, if I recall. And I remember you actually had, it's on tape somewhere, that you would actually lassoed me at the end of a selectmen's meeting to be someone that would be, I don't think we ever had 9. And I think that getting me on was a number that was going to be reasonable, but I still don't think we met the
I remember
committee.
the finance committee had put forward Andrea.
Andrea.
I know, but,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
anyway, that's one.
but it doesn't matter at this point. I
No,
think,
but I'm just want to say that, it's not just a matter of picking up where we left off. That's
no.
one, we have to really start from, looking at, I'm sure that there's boxes of materials. And then the other thing, I can't tell you which things they were, but there were, the reason why it stopped dead in its tracks, or one of the reasons was, some of the things that we had shrunk it down, and we probably, I don't want to say that we failed in our mission, but we probably shrunk it, talking to people that had looked at it after we completed it, that there was concern that we had shrunk it down too much, and that I'm going to step back to the composition of the committee, that could have been one reason, is that we lacked the expertise that would have prevented us from narrowing it down too much. There was probably input.
yeah, and I'm
that
not
we could have
suggesting,
benefited for.
I'm not suggesting that we
Yeah.
do it the same way.
Oh, yeah,
I'm-
but I just would, I
I'm
want
saying,
that we
you
can
know-
definitely have those 9 people
Yeah.
without question, and not
And I think there's
accept
plenty of
less.
material, and
Yeah.
there are people like Don Klein, who was the chair then, who I know would still have that information. I have a copy of
Oh,
the
I've
last
got a
one.
box.
I've got a copy of all the stuff too. So, there's enough people that have copies of what we did, what was discussed, what got sent to town council, so that I'm not
Town
saying.
council was at our meeting.
Yes, that's right. So
Would the goal to be having this done by the fall town meeting?
my goal would more be to have it done by the April town meeting. It's a
Of
big
next
job.
May, the May
so-
town meeting of next year.
Yeah,
That would
Okay.
be a good goal. The biggest one being getting 9 people, because we've got committees that we've got commissions, we've got committees, that are still unable to meet because of lack of volunteers. So if we can get the 9 people appointed.
Would you like a post?
a post
To
would be
put the
good.
posting out on this pursuant to this
How
section
are
of the
you feeling
charter?
about this?
No, I like it. I think it's a very good idea,
Okay.
especially if it's required to be done.
So is it our vote then
Give
to,
me the nod to.
To post
for
for-
the Charter Review Committee pursuant to section 7.7 of the charter, and list the number and the from wheres.
according to what's in the charter?
Letting the moderator.
Do you want to do a
Other
motion?
committees know
Yeah.
that they have to come up with.
I move that the board authorize Mr. Kryler to post for volunteers for the charter review.
Volunteers and appointments,
And-
right?
and appointments
From the appropriate,
Right.
in accordance with,
Section 7.
Yeah.
whatever,
Gotcha.
that one, yeah, second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
One brief thing, Madam Chair.
Yes.
It's interesting to read that the language makes it clear that once the committee is appointed, its report goes directly to the town meeting,
That's correct.
not to the select board for consideration to be placed at the town meeting. So that might have been another hiccup too, that there is
Yeah.
an understanding or belief that it had to pit stop at the select board before going to town meeting. But the express language says from the committee directly to the town meeting,
Right, right.
with the presumption that the selectmen have representation already on it.
Oh, okay, like they could have more input or change it or
Or they're
do
at least
something
aware.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The past is the past. I
Yeah.
just care about moving forward.
Yeah, I
So
think-
there was a lot of work
Yeah.
done, and I hate to see it wasted, and I think it's a necessary thing that has to happen, so.
Does anyone know when the previous one, before you started this last round, when that was done?
2012, there's a report.
Okay.
Was that the one that Jean did? Yeah. And that one I feel comfortable with because that was a lot of edit kinds of things. And then, so after all those edits were applied, then we started looking at content. And it was the content stuff that we
Yeah,
ended
but
up
we
working
weren't,
on.
I don't think even what we did do, I mean, we might have deleted a lot of stuff that was duplication, which, and
Mm-hmm.
to change some of the wording because some of the state laws had changed. But we really didn't change, I don't recall that we changed anything of significance.
I don't
We didn't
think so
rewrite
either.
how we do business in
No,
Townsend.
no.
So it still was more of the same. It was more of an edit.
It was a
of-
bigger cleanup.
a cleanup, not a we need to review
No,
how
it
we
wasn't
do
like
things.
we destroyed the whole thing
Yeah.
and built it back up again at all. That there were
It's
some
almost down to like
changes.
a couple of pages now, we don't, no.
No, it wasn't that
The
good.
town was incorporated,
Yeah,
period.
no.
No.
But I mean, it does open it up for, a new group to go in and take a look at it, and there'll be plenty of time for all those discussions. And I think that perhaps a little bit more guidance from the state might be helpful, and I know that they're available to help communities that work on their charters, so.
And I think you mentioned one thing about, that the master plan committee would need that, and I think almost because of where things go, I think the master plan committee would actually have better input to the charter committee as opposed to the charter committee, the master plan not being able to
They see
be
a
done.
volunteer.
I think that if the master plan committee can come up with, this is how we see Townsend, then the charter committee will say, oh, is that, and
Well-
be able to adjust, and also to go at the same time, and even to have a little bit of crossover, or even if the people that are on that have more time on their hands.
Well,
come to that.
certainly if people that have already started working on the master plan,
Right.
and anybody in this room, had already gotten to the point where they've talked about X, Y, and Z, and there's something glaring missing
Yeah.
that would kind of open up X, Y, and Z, then certainly
I just don't think any.
to provide that
nobody- we
input
shouldn't be
back to
holding
this
up anybody
committee.
Because
No.
you can't get the charter spit out.
No, but I still, the charter comes first. The charter comes first, and
But also
it's clear.
to say, I don't believe that we're going to rewrite how town government is. There might be some things that might be one to look at.
I think there's
process.
things that need to be clarified, certainly.
But I don't think it's so significant that it's going to have a major impact on a master plan.
No,
Or
I don't,
anything
I
else.
don't think so either, but if in the course of,
Human existence.
in the course of working on the master plan or any bylaw changes or anything, if someone recognizes that there's ambiguity in the charter having to do with something that they're talking about, then certainly that should be brought up to the Charter Review Committee for consideration. But it shouldn't, it's not that the master plan determines
No.
the charter, and that
But
should
that's a
be
guide.
really clear.
That's a guide to say, this is how
Right, so
we
we
want
need
to see
to
the town
ensure that
go,
there's
and that the
communication.
charter might need to be tweaked in order to meet that, not change how we completely do business, but.
So between now and your next meeting, if one of the three of you wants to think about which one's getting thrown to the wolves,
Well, so it doesn't, we don't have to be a member of the Board of Selectmen to be on that.
understood.
Just we can appoint somebody from the community that might be interested in being on that. I already did my shift.
I mean, because, it's called put your money where your mouth is, as far as I'm concerned. I would step up and volunteer to do that, so, if nobody else does.
Excellent. We'll get that posted.
Thank you. We didn't vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Charter will be reviewed if we can get 9 people. Policy updates discussion, public comment policy draft is enclosed for 1. And it is a draft. Did you both have a chance to look at it?
I did.
Any thoughts?
I think it's a good morph of the several that I've read in the past.
Which is what it is exactly.
Yeah, we kind of
To use that
morphed.
language lightly. But I think it covers all the things that you brought up the last time we had this discussion. But it is limiting to a point, but it still allows for topics to be raised and questions to be asked in a formal manner.
Cindy?
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
how do both of you think of the placement of it?
In the beginning, you mean?
In the beginning versus the end? I mean, there are
Oh,
some,
Is that in here? Oh.
But I think it prevents discussion on any type of open meeting law potential violation if you do it first before you actually talk about the topics that are in the agenda.
tell me more.
So say if somebody comes up and says, I have a question about, pick one of the topics tonight, the charter review. They can ask their specific question, we get to that charter review point, and we can address it at that time and not violate open meeting law. Whereas if you did it at the end, you're kind of going back and potentially adding an agenda item or continuing a conversation that was stopped.
Okay, so the assumption is that in that case, someone may be interested in commenting or asking a question or consideration, something for consideration based on what's on the agenda.
Right. That's
Okay.
why most people come to these meetings, is that they see something that concerns them, and
Well, there'll be other things as well.
Right.
There'll be people that will
Yeah, I don't
come.
like the beginning, one reason, kind of similar twist to what Wayne said, but that if someone has a question, if we got 15 minutes designated, if someone has a question, and we're going to cover it on the agenda, even if it's in our updates, where it might not be spelled out, then the person, oh, well, we're going to cover that. But we're not going to cover it during the public comment period because we're going to cover it. So,
That's right.
Okay.
and if they have further questions after we do cover it in the agenda, the time is now gone for the public comment. So at the end of the meeting, I think if people have questions about what we just went over, then that gives them an opportunity to comment about those things at the end of the meeting, where if they don't like or they have questions about something that we've done during the meeting, the public comment happened before the meeting, sorry. So if we put it at the end, we're capturing. And then we're also, at the end of the meeting, I think I don't think I have to tell anybody that we've had some very disruptive selectmen's meetings where we could not stop the public comment. So if we have it at the beginning of the meeting, we've had to cancel a couple of meetings because we could not. Despite the police being here, despite the chair trying to silence the disruption, we had to not continue with the meetings, and that was at the beginning. If we have public comment at the end, our agenda's taken care of. If something goes wrong with the public comments, which the potential is there, especially since we've not had this particular type of thing on our agenda, our agenda is over, and if the chair needs to stop, which is in here, if the chair needs to take control and say this has gotten unruly, then the meeting's already over. Then the agenda we've filled our objectives on the agenda. So I think that it's safer to have it at the end.
I understand your concern, and having been through what you've been through, I truly understand it.
You were in the audience.
But I'm looking forward. I'm really trying to look forward and
I am
not
too.
back. And I mean, call me Pollyanna, but I'm looking at it as a positive thing, and until such time as it's not positive, and if that happens, we deal with it. And we can always, the chair has the right to say, we're going to put a hold on this public comment thing because it doesn't seem to be working, and it's disruptive to the meetings and whatnot, which I don't hesitate one single solitary bit to do.
And we can always move it, can't we? Change it.
Well, yeah, but I'm not even thinking of the before and after as much as the fear of disruption. But the meeting will not be disrupted if I have anything to say about it. So we'll see how that goes. I'm 6 of this and half a dozen of the other, so my only concern with putting it at the end is if somebody is coming and just simply wants to say, I just want to tell you, it's like an announcement kind of thing. I want to tell you about what's going
My only thought was the same
on.
exact.
You know,
If
I
somebody
mean,
says there's a Scouts,
'cause it's-
bottle drive, you don't
Right.
have them wait until 10 o'clock at night to make it.
Yeah, I'd
When
like-
people aren't watching at home any longer, perhaps. So
Exactly.
maybe even bifurcating and having a
If
public
somebody has an
announcement in the
announcement,
very
they
beginning
can give them
and
to
public
us to
comment at the end.
announce. That's all the selectmen's updates were going for a while, would be the
That's still at
selectmen's.
the end of the meeting, deep into the meeting.
But I think you're allowing the public, someone that has worked hard to do something like that has an announcement for a bottle drive. Or it's a good community. They should get the credit for being the ones that announce it, not us. We're not doing it.
So if you felt the value was having the comment at the end of the meeting, after you've had the agenda and the chance to answer things, and when the agenda's completed in case things go off the rails and you've at least done the work, but you want to afford people the opportunity to announce their can drive, have a very tightly defined public announcement for a couple of minutes at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm feeling like I'd rather have the whole thing at the beginning and try it that way. And let's see how it goes. This is just the first draft, I think. I mean, we can vote on it if you want. I'm gonna give you guys the,
I think I'd like to review it for one more
you
session.
wanna review it
Yeah,
again?
At this point, I would vote against it because of the it's in the, it says opening, at the opening of the meeting, but I would, so yes, I would like to have the opportunity to hopefully talk about it a bit more.
Okay. Let's put this down for the next regular agenda and give us time to think about it and maybe even take a look at some other ones that are out there.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the school committee before.
School committee, I think, does theirs at the end now.
Do they? Okay.
And in all the time that I was on the school committee, I never saw anything that was horrible. You know, people get up and they talk and I say thank you for your input,
Go on.
and you go.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that. So, next regular meeting agenda, please.
Gotcha.
Use of town council policy. Do you have copies of those?
Should be in your packets, the very next in your packet.
Do we have any comments?
Yes, we still, Madam Chair, 3 is, you had an issue with how 3 was drafted. This is just the last one that was before the board. Specifically, matters involve the town administrator, which would then only require authorization from the chair. Your concern was obviously if you had a particular issue as a member, but you're not the chair, how you communicate that with the chair without there being an open meeting law violation. So it became issues, how does an individual member who has a concern about the TA access counsel?
Right, that was what we talked about then, and can you pass that one on to Jim? And in thinking about that, and in looking at some other towns' policies, and there's tons of differences, I'll just give you a minute to... I think especially the fourth one is extremely important.
I agree.
For the benefit of the public, one of the things that, that I took from someone else's policy was all members of the Board of Selectmen requesting ethics opinions for the conflict of interest law shall have direct access to town council. They do not need to copy the chair of the Board of Selectmen on such inquiries, and town council shall respond to the member directly without copies to the other members of the board. And I think that's important because there are always going to be situations where it really ends up being that member and an issue that might just apply to that member, where ethics are concerned. And I think that's a nice way of wording it, too. I don't want to be as restrictive as I've seen us be in the past.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if you look at the introductory paragraph in the draft, which is actually the same as exists in your current policy, this policy was driven based on financial considerations. It was an attempt to have a gatekeeper of some sort to make certain that legal costs could be managed.
So how do you do that and still,
Reflect your positions in the pecking order of the organization. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to request of the TA. I get that, that's not how the system is built here.
but
This
I
is a
still,
lot wider open than I think is gonna be fiscally manageable.
but what I was wondering is, would that maybe be solved by maybe even just a monthly report, once a month, a report from you as to where we are with expenditures for legal?
And respectfully, what that would be to me would be, I'm gonna tell you how badly we're hemorrhaging in monthly increments. Because if we don't have a gatekeep, and at any given time, the three of you, independent of one another, independent of the administration, are running the meter with council, yeah.
No.
I'll tell you where we are budgetarily each month, but that doesn't address the concern about managing it.
No, I'm not suggesting that it be a free-for-all, okay? And I don't think this is how it is. All right, the chair or the board, through a majority vote, shall have direct access to request town council to attend a meeting, okay? That's really, we've always done that.
Number two is where it's wide open.
Any member of the Board of Selectmen shall have direct access to town council to obtain legal advice or request a written opinion. I would be happy with taking away the request of written opinion, because that's a lot more money.
That's even more dangerous, though, so if I could talk candidly, because what'll happen then is, if you have two members of the board that are in disagreement, which God willing won't be the case, but say you do, and you have access equally to go to council, and you're not gonna get a written opinion, instead you're gonna talk to council, you're both gonna hear what you wanna hear, perhaps, and come back, and then we're just gonna, it just,
Let me give you an example. If I were to have a question on what would the process be for, and would it be appropriate for me as a member of the board to bring up a given situation, and is that appropriate? Is that something that the law allows us to do? And if I wanted to bring this up, how would it need to be brought up?
and my suggestion would be you would ask your town administrator that question. And to the extent that it's beyond your town administrator, whoever he or she may be's knowledge or experience, then town administrator would reach out to council as a part of his or her day-to-day function. And that way there, again, it's still, there's actually a form that accompanies this policy where, there needs to be, for council to get paid, there needs to be a corresponding sheet that they receive with sign-off from the TA. I just think,
I mean, I saw one policy, believe it or not, that said, here's the policy for accessing town council, but that was for, for boards or committees or chairmen or whatever. And then when it got to the Board of Selectmen, it said, selectmen are exempt from all of this.
sure,
Okay, I'm not suggesting that selectmen be totally exempt from it, but I have at times felt as though I had something that I wanted to ask that I wasn't really comfortable sharing with anyone. And if I can't, as a member of the board, share something confidential with my town council, who the board hires.
If you can't share it with your town administrator, who the board hires, there's a different issue.
Well, I know, but there, and I don't know what kind of a situation that
And
might be.
we're a board, we're not individuals functioning.
I know, but even to bring it up sometimes, you know, it's like, you know, there's been times that I've wondered about stuff, and it's like, how would you even address this, or how, you know, and I can't even think of the examples, and I wouldn't talk about them if it was that anyway, but, I don't know, I guess we could just play it by ear with that.
Was it something we could talk to Mr. Jenkins about? Because that was one of the topics that I did talk to him about when I had my meeting with him at the beginning. Because I asked how that works.
And I asked him once, and he said most towns have a policy.
He said that too, but he said they've ranged from something like this draft to everything goes through the town administrator and that's it. It's the pleasure of the board that, in the policy that we adopt. But I'd like to see some examples of that.
That's a thought, too.
Because there's no one right way, and there's no, you know, it's not a wrong way either, so. But I'd like to dive in a little bit more as to how we can do this. I agree with the point about the ethics piece.
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be in there, absolutely, because that's a personal matter that doesn't have to involve either of you two.
I do have a comment about item 4, where, yes, a conflict of interest law question that, I mean, I've had some, particularly when I started. You know, when you're in your first year, you got a lot of, is this okay? We're worried, because there's so many complaints all the time. Like, am I okay? You know, can I breathe today? Who can I talk to? You know, what is the right thing? And, but it's usually something that we're doing in our lives, and it's connections that we have. And town council is not representing us. Town council is representing the town's interest. So although they would give us a response that is it might work for us and what we're thinking about, because we're not lawyers, sometimes we don't use the right language. But they're gonna say how the town would defend that conversation, on whether or not the town is protected in this conversation. But what I did learn very early on is that the Ethics Commission wants to hear from people. And I consider it free legal advice that doesn't cost the town a nickel. And we can contact them, and I've contacted them many times about, okay, and you cannot call them about someone else's behavior. Okay, just to say that I've only called about my own questions about what I'm doing and whether or not I can do it. What is the impact? Like a simple one that I started with, and that it changed behavior on the whole board, actually. Well, almost the whole board. There's a certain other member that might be in the room. But that I live next door to the brick store, and I was reading, because they give you a packet when you start, as you know, and I was reading it, and I came across the abutter rule. And it's something as simple as a liquor license, or beer and wine license for the brick store, or their common victualler, I can never say that right, license. Well, the abutter rule apply to that? I mean, it just seems so simple. But yeah, I called ethics about it, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, my. And they explained, you know, that because it does impact property values or something, that if you didn't like it, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. And so they were able, and they're very, very nice. They want to hear from the actual person. And I'd actually asked, if I may add this, that Carolyn was on the board with me, and she lives next to the VFW, and I tried to get them to answer. I said, is this the same as Carolyn? And they said, she should call us directly. We will not talk to you about somebody else's ethical
they hold the
conflict
line.
of interest, even if it's identical. Okay, so
So are you saying because you
think-
have access to the Ethics Commission?
I would recommend that it's any town official can call ethics and we'll talk to a real attorney
Okay, there are
and get a written
exceptions.
opinion.
There are exceptions, and I'm going to tell you one that's live happened to me, okay?
Okay.
I talked to ethics. I called them at 9 o'clock in the morning. We had a meeting scheduled for that evening. They said that nobody was going to get back to me until afternoon time. I needed to know what I needed to do. I had to call town council.
What time was the meeting?
The meeting was at 6, but there was no guarantee they were going to get back to me. And actually, what happened was, somebody got back to me and said, oh, well, we'll try to get back to you with this, I have to consult with blah, 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 and one of those deals. And it's like, okay. I mean, there are situations where you need advice, because this is something that you're worried about, and it might turn out to be nothing, and most of the time it is, but I think there are going to be situations like that. I don't think there's going to be a lot, but I think a member of the board should be free to at least talk to somebody at town
I
council.
just have to agree with Jim. I've seen the legal bills, and I know it's been a concern for a lot of people in the community as well, even though it wasn't, there was no actual hemorrhage, but it's very easy to, having the free access like that, it's an easy, especially where there's so many things that we come up with, and not to pick on Wayne, but the newer you are on the board, the more concerned we are about the right answer, and it's, it must be a lawyer, town council has to answer this question, when sometimes it's very simple, it's much simpler, or something that Jim's done 100 times in his years of, that he can show us the law. He can
Provide you
just-
the law, not just
Well,
tell you.
but, I mean, he could just, oh, well, here, it's chapters and verse here and there, and this is the answer. And,
I
you
get
know,
that
we
too.
save a lot of money by not having just
But I-
free access to town council.
But I think there's a hybrid in there somewhere, that
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
avenues for both.
yeah, but I mean, but I think
I don't know
this-
what it is
this
right now. I
too-
think this is a good start to
We
it.
need to, like, move the
Okay.
decimal point on a
Well,
legal
let's,
bill.
Jim, what do you... I can see us having a few work session plans set up, and this belongs on a work session.
And it can be one-
We're talking
Perhaps
about
in-
the lawyers. Maybe
Yeah,
we should put
perhaps in conjunction with
a
our
flat
next
fee
visit.
annual, like we do trash. Not to compare lawyers to trash, but we have like $600,000.
Well, we'll be talking about
Regardless-
that anyway. But can
I didn't
you,
mean it to come out that way at all, I'm sorry. I
yeah,
apologize
that
to all
was
the
good.
lawyers out there.
That was good.
It's a work session.
Yeah, work session
policy.
item. And I don't know when we're scheduled. Did we get a schedule for the executive
On the
session?
5th. Yep.
On what,
The
when?
5th, your next regular first meeting of the month, June 5th.
So when is our next meeting? The 24th?
24th, you have the off meeting, and then 29th, you have the goals and objectives work session.
Okay, so,
So
For
so
that-
the every other meeting of the other week isn't working anyway, so, okay. I knew
Just
that.
for
well, because
Because
that,
it's never worked since I've been on the board.
And for the 29th, I'm
It's
gonna have
gonna
to
start
call in for
working
that.
now.
Okay.
hold on. 29th is the work session on goals and objectives.
Correct.
And what, didn't we say the first and
First and third, so that would be
third?
the 5th.
That would be the 5th,
And
right?
David is confirmed for the executive
At
prior
what
to the
time?
general. As early as you need him.
Okay. Why do I have 6:30 for that? Did I key it wrong?
No. No.
Okay. Um, In the meantime, could we get some other policies from other towns to take a look at?
Yep.
Please?
Now, Madam Chair, you asked for public comment policy to be on the next regular agenda. Do you instead, now that it looks like we're going to have a couple of policy issues for which there might be a work session, do you want to
Okay.
do policies as a work session?
How do you two feel?
When would that be?
Well,
Not yet set. I mean, I've
we
gotta- I've
haven't
gotta
set-
That
gather
would
some
be after the
After-
12th,
After the 5th, yeah. So.
so, okay,
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
yes.
Has the town ever done the first meeting of the month as business and the second meeting of the month as a work session?
No.
I've seen some communities do that.
If you'd like to
where-
arrange all of the things to
be
coincide with
the
that, that
first of
would
the
be
month.
fine.
Yeah. Well, it becomes something that people become accustomed to as well. They know the deadline for permit applications is,
Well, how about if we task the town administrator with trying to organize that stuff? It's kind of related to something I think you wanted to talk about too,
the calendar.
the calendar, okay? I think that that would make a lot of sense.
Because otherwise we're going to put these work sessions that
In between.
in between and
That's
Thursday
right.
nights and.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because
Yeah, that's not gonna work well.
So,
we've never had the every other Tuesday.
well, we used to, but, yeah, that gets put off.
But we're,
Gotcha.
We can
we're now-
blame me for this
we're now
one.
working every
You
Tuesday
can-
like usual.
I know, but you can blame me for this one, because I canceled last meeting, but
That has nothing to do with the 5th and the,
I had to
12th
talk
and
about
the-
that.
it's we're still every Tuesday, that's only one meeting.
And we're gonna try not to be.
That was actually a Tuesday
Okay.
we had off.
We'll try not to
And it's
be.
gonna be the only Tuesday we're gonna have off until after
So,
the 4th
Mr.
of July.
Kreidler, would you please
Yes,
try to arrange,
yes.
and that means maybe thinking ahead to all of the kinds of things and communicating with the other boards and committees and appointments and things like that, okay? I mean, I don't have any problem with having a couple of appointments in between if that needs to happen,
Or
but,
at the very beginning of the work session.
Exactly.
15 minutes to get some stuff out of the way.
but that's it,
Gotcha.
okay? Where are we? Public comment.
That was town council policy, you got 443.
443, agenda policy. 1618 is agenda procedures, and I'd just like to highlight that any member should feel free to request the tabling of an item. The other thing that I'd like to make clear is it is not the town administrator who is doing the agenda, it is the chair in consultation. So I think that's written in reverse. Responsibility for coordinating and planning the meeting agenda is that of the town administrator in consultation with the chairman, and I disagree with that. I think it is the opposite. How do you guys feel
I'm
about
not
that?
sure, where are you?
Here you go.
Is that the only,
16 and
okay.
18.
Is that copy, do I have that copy somewhere?
Yeah, you should, it's in the little,
Oh,
You have the
it's in the packet.
whole
then.
shoot match, I think.
I think it's just right on the table, I made it for you.
Cindy. Here, take this one.
16 and 18.
Probably had it here, I'll just, oh, there it is, okay.
You got it?
All right,
It's like halfway down.
So you're saying agenda items that we want, we copy you and the TA, or go directly to you, or,
No, TA and I.
okay, I agree with that.
So reversing
So where are
TA
we?
and chairman, the very first sentence of 16-8. Responsibility for coordinating,
It's like
planning the
in the
meeting
middle of the
agenda
page.
is that of the town administrator in consultation with the chair. It should be responsibility of the chair in consultation with the TA, or with assistance of, or,
And the next paragraph,
We do it together, okay, but it's the chair that makes the
16-1.
call. 18.
16-18.
It's like in the middle of a page, Cindy.
agenda procedures?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's mentioned in 1608 and 1610.
Yeah, well, that's a general policy discussion that we need to have. There's a lot of typos in here that at some
I thought
point
it was a typo. I think.
we,
But 1610, responsibilities of the chair, set agenda items with the town administrator, subject to acceptance of the board when the meeting convenes. 1608, town administrator. Ugh, I had it. Maybe I don't know it.
So the takeaway here is to make the policy consistent throughout, that it is the chair that sets it with consultation with the TA. Is that what I'm hearing? And that anybody that has an agenda item that they'd like to request, they submit it to the chair, CCing the TA, or both somehow.
Okay,
And we also-
coordinating planning meeting agendas, those terms.
That's fine, because that was a question I had as well, how to do it.
I think it's word salad. I don't think it makes any difference which one comes first. You both, because the town administrator is the one that gets the important mail and says, well, this has to be dealt with. I don't think either one, it says, it's not that the town administrator is not setting the agenda. It's in consultation with the chair, unless you're gonna type it.
I don't get paid enough to type it.
Well, I don't know.
Anyway, I would be much more comfortable if that was switched.
Okay, well.
Second
I
paragraph,
don't see that.
all items for
I'm
the
not gonna-
agenda are expected to be submitted to the town administrator at least 5 working days before any regular scheduled meeting. Okay?
Five?
It says 5. At 5, maybe doesn't work, is what
Yeah.
we figured out,
Yeah.
okay?
That
It-
would cause a problem.
Because it needs to be posted 2 days before. Our meetings are typically on a Tuesday, and this office needs time to put the whole thing together. Mr. Kreidler and I have been trying to meet, or are going to try to meet on Thursday mornings, first thing. That hopefully would give everybody else time. So I'd like to say by Wednesday, the Wednesday previous to the regular meeting, by end of day, if you have something to submit it.
Because right now, 5 days is Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
But as long as we have it by the end of the day on Wednesday, we can take it up Thursday morning when we're finalizing the agenda. And that will give this office time to put the packets together and all that.
So by the close of business, 4 days ahead
Yeah.
of time.
Okay?
Do you want to just state Wednesday instead of leaving it for someone to figure out the
Yeah.
math? Say 4 days and people
Yeah.
don't know if the calendar
Wednesday.
versus working and...
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
previous
Well, sometimes
Wednesday.
we might not have a meeting on a Tuesday. We don't always have meetings on
Our
Tuesdays.
regular scheduled meetings are on Tuesdays, though. These are regular board meetings that we're talking
It
about,
does say regularly scheduled meeting
Mm-hmm.
in that sentence.
okay?
Gotcha.
So, do we need to vote on this?
It is policy, so if you're going to propose changing it, it would need to be voted. You have a policy on setting policies that says you have to speak it one meeting and not vote to affirm it until the second meeting unless by unanimous vote.
good.
You can do it at the first meeting.
Okay, so how about this? Could we ask, Mr. Carley, could we ask you to redo this, a copy of this, and we'll put it on that same work session where we're doing the other policies and get them all done at the same time?
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So we're gonna discuss this again
You'll have time to think about it some more, yeah?
and just discuss it.
Okay?
Okay.
Are there other things within this policy document that you want to, you want this whole booklet on for that work session, not just 16-8, right?
I think at some point we have to go through the whole thing.
Just not now.
No.
Well, can we have not just 16-8?
Anywhere that agenda setting
18,
is.
I mean,
Right. Because it's in 10 and it's in a couple of.
Yeah,
because the
wherever,
agenda setting,
wherever that is.
Consistency.
Yes.
I.
I mean, there are,
I'd rather have us, because there
do
could
you want to
be-
go through the whole thing?
Well, I don't want to go through the whole thing. Well, I guess we can go through the whole thing right now.
Well, that really wasn't one of
No, I
our,
mean, that's a work session.
that's a
It's
work
gonna take a
session
while.
thing.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's, so let's do the talk about it next time and do the vote on it the time after.
okay.
Is that, okay?
If you want to go
Because I
through the
think
whole
that-
thing,
I do. If we're
Sure.
because there could be, I mean, I haven't,
Wayne?
A different question, which is, when you look at in the very fine print in your packets there, it's hard to read. 90-1, any non-contractual personnel policy and/or procedure of the town as affirmatively voted and signed off on by the majority of elected boards and commissions shall be applicable to all non-contractual town employees. Pretty straightforward. The personnel policies and procedures manual that all boards and commissions affirmatively voted and signed off on back in 2004 contains within it specific language that says amendments to this personnel policy and procedures manual can be taken up by the town administrator and the board of selectmen. So when I've talked to council about this, the thought was that the initial buy-in when the town converted from the personnel board to the, having this personal policy and procedures manual across all boards and commissions was that everybody should be able to sign off. After that, consistent with the policy itself that everybody's already agreed to, it rests with the executive, which is where it should.
Could we get something, from town
He'll be here.
council on that
Yeah,
too?
absolutely. Yep.
Because I just remember it being the opposite, because we were frustrated as a board, because it just seemed like it was too cumbersome a process to have to go through. And no matter what the selectmen and TA said, if a majority of the boards didn't sign off on it, it went nowhere.
And that's why council said
that's why you
exactly
just said we're
exactly
not
what the
gonna do
language
that
says,
anymore.
which is once everybody signed that document, there's a provision in it that says future amendments are yours.
And this is an amendment.
Okay.
So, but I'll definitely have David address that, because there are actually stuff that goes back, I think, to Terry Dowdy and even June Riddle that talk about the cumbersome nature of having everybody
Right.
have to sign up on every
Yeah.
comma change.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
We'll get that taken care of.
Yeah, but I'd just like to make
On
that
something
clear
like
to
this,
everyone that
this could be
that
this
is the
could
way
be-
that it is.
We could have multiple different employees paying different amounts on
Which legally you can't.
health insurance.
So that's the other issue that something like this can present is if you have a policy that says 75-25, but from a collective bargaining perspective, 85-15, collective bargaining, you've done 75-25, you have inconsistencies. The contract will trump the policy, but it creates a mess.
Okay.
So I'll have that addressed at your next meeting.
That's that one. All board notification of personnel policy changes, and it's related. It's like anytime we make changes to anything, I think as a courtesy, we should be sending it to all department heads and boards. Okay, so that's just my thoughts.
Don't have an argument.
Okay, updates and reports, town administrator updates and reports, you have a few of them.
I do. You should each have received a copy in your packets under 511, request for proposals, town council, and request for proposals, labor council services. You should also have each received a copy of a spreadsheet doing a very rough analysis of the submittals that we received during this procurement. For general town council services, there were submittals from KP Law, Merrick O'Connell, Mead, Tallerman and Costa, and Mears and Harrington. And for labor, the same with the exception of Mears and Harrington. So there were just 3 for labor. What you see in this spreadsheet is, it's nothing more than distilling what's in those packets. There's no rating other than what they were asked to rate themselves as.
And that's important, it's not our rating, it's
Absolutely.
their
It is
rating
what
of
they rate
themselves.
themselves as having the skills in. So you basically have lead counsel and hourly rates, bill for paralegals and clerical staff, listing for all charges and expenses, what increments they bill, portal to portal or some other basis for travel, and proposed alternative fee arrangements and other cost containments. So there were differences between the firms. Some charge 50% of the attorney rate for paralegals, other 100% of the rate, and others 0%. They all bill on tenths. The rates range from 165 in year one, 175 year two, and 180 and 85 in years 3 and 4, to a flat 195 and a flat 180 respectively for the other two. So I think it's good information, but it's not dispositive of who you might want. It's just information.
Who did we get just one from?
Mearis and Harrington, they only submitted for
For
general town council.
general
but not
town
labor.
council.
Correct. You'll see they're blackened out on that spreadsheet.
Right.
Labor.
And I don't know what happened. Didn't we have two for these? What did I do?
No, theirs is, if you look at the header on it, it says both.
Oh, that's right. Which is the one, because I brought these home for the weekend and still didn't finish looking at everything. Have you two had a chance to?
Yeah, I came in over the weekend and read them.
I have not seen them yet.
So you didn't have them over the weekend?
Well, I picked it up at some point. Did you look
No.
at them at all? Okay.
I come in here
I
with
can't
peace
say
and
that-
quiet, and I won't be interrupted, and I can just read up something like that, so I just devoured them.
Yeah, I started to at home, and there's a lot there. There's a lot, and you haven't had a chance to
No,
look
I've been
at
away,
them.
so.
Which of these, one of them said something about a flat
Yep, if you look,
rate,
if you look at
the matrix?
any proposed alternative fee arrangement, KP Law said they'd be happy to discuss a retainer. Miracle Connell would be happy to discuss. Mead, Tallerman, and Costa would be happy to discuss. And when you look at the town council services, Mead and Tallerman did talk about a flat fee retainer, as did Mearis and Harrington.
Now, are all these for a contract piece, or is it still?
I think that it's not a contract.
It's been an appointment,
It's
and
a-
there's been a term letter, generally that would list, what the offer is. Just so people at home follow along, when people are proposing that there would be a flat fee, there are a number of carve-outs to that. What they're basically saying is, as town council, will provide you a flat fee for general things, not litigation, not complex labor issues. So there are a number of carve-outs that are generally where the money really lies. So people, should not be excited to look and say, wow, you've got a firm that's gonna come in here for, 15 grand. Oh yeah, they're gonna come in 15 grand basically to do the stuff that they've got already done for 10 other communities that they can just click and send to you. It's not for the real stuff.
Well, obviously, we're not going to make a decision now. That's going to take a hefty discussion, and certainly, I'd like a couple days to finish reading, because I didn't finish it all. And Wayne needs an opportunity to look at it. You know what would be helpful?
We have a number of copies, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think you
Okay.
did.
Yeah, no, the RFP actually called for multiple copies, so.
Oh, good.
Oh, all right, I thought that was our
Oh,
own.
I thought that was too.
That's why I
I know.
sat there.
And I wrote a
asked
note
for it.
saying to Carolyn, I took them. I'm
Before you-
signing them
Before you
out.
leave tonight, I'll
Perfect.
get you your packet of
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
that would
that's
be great,
great.
so that we can-
That's
Good
great. The other thing is, the actual RFP itself, I don't have a copy of.
I emailed it to you in the,
This one?
no, that's just the advertisement for it.
I didn't see the RFP itself.
Actually, if you, this is the RFP here, so it's in your packet, and I believe I emailed it as well.
It's in your packet.
I did.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the second page.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm gonna put that all together then. Thank you. I mean, that's like, I'm personally, I'm not in a hurry on it. There, one of the pieces of information that I saw in here was other communities that they serve. I wondered if we could do kind of a summary of that. It's like, I don't know Lunenburg has one of them, and just for us to be able to, at some point, when we're trying to make a decision, to be able to call our neighbors or, other towns.
I believe there is, in each response, there is a
Just
separate
experience.
sheet where they listed the contact the community and,
What years they
yeah,
covered,
so
I think.
the numbers,
So what I'm saying is there any way we could have that in a summary form? To just say, these are the ones that K and P does, or KP has, and call that, these are some of their reference towns.
We can take their references and just burn them over into an Excel spreadsheet, so you have all of it in one spot.
And I don't know, but maybe the board would want to take turns and call a few people on our own, and just say, hey, Lunenburg, how's it going?
Right.
That kind of thing. Because it's a feel kind of thing too,
Sure.
you.
And I would imagine you'll want, whether it's the whole shoot and match, or if you narrow it down, you'll want interviews, you'll want to actually be able to feel them out and look them in the eye and all those fun things too, so.
So I see this process as maybe over the course of a few months to figure it out. Okay,
There's a lot to digest there.
yeah.
So action items, give each full packs, and put together the contact sheet for all the references.
That'd be great. Okay, and then put it on the next agenda, just to touch base again, and maybe try to plan out a time frame.
I do have one question. We're using KP Law, and they, are there current fees that we have with them along this, or is the 165 on their bid referring to their first year on the new agreement?
That's
or
our current rate, and that would be for
That's our current
all
rate.
of next year.
Oh, okay.
So finishing this year, and they'd
Alright.
hold it for next year as well.
So by saying
And we're
that this may
talking
take
about
months,
next-
we're going to
next
keep
year
our
anyway.
current agreement with KP Law in full effect.
Unless you vote to do something different, that's.
Right,
that's what
okay,
we
I just
got.
want to make sure that we're good, and that's not a concern. Okay.
Madam Chair, there was the additional discussion about, it shows under 5112, consider additional outreach. Does the board have any interest in, this procurement isn't required by Chapter 30B to have been done. Council is exempt. So even though we've done a procurement, it wouldn't be a violation of anything to solicit additional input or outreach. So I don't know what your pleasure is on that. I just put the note down here because I know we spoke about it.
Yeah, I brought it up just because I know that there are some towns that do that, They might talk to, hey, Ashby, who are you using? And, oh, that's not one of them. And if you're happy with, with who it is, maybe we'll ask them to submit if they're interested in submitting. So it was just to keep that open in case.
Well, I think was it the labor that we only had one?
The labor,
No
you had
labor.
three.
No, we had
One didn't.
Okay.
One of the four didn't,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think,
I
we
mean, they
put it
all
out,
look
we put
really
it out, we got,
good.
I'm impressed with the
I hear you.
responses. I'm disappointed that the one, doesn't do labor, but that's something we can discuss later, and when we talk about the main group. But I don't think we need to go out, because that would be basically starting all over again, because these folks could rebid, and, because the more months we go on, it can take, we'd be back to this time next year.
I'm not thinking of months and months, I'm thinking
No, but I mean, it
maybe a
would take some
3-month
process. We'd have to,
project.
send it out, they'd have to put proposals
Yeah,
together.
I
think,
agree.
I think we should review these first, and
Yeah, I think that,
that's enough to start
I
with.
think at this stage, I think we have an adequate number of fully qualified, experienced municipal law firms to consider. I think putting an additional outreach would only muddy the water for us,
I don't
as
really
well
want
as
to take a pile
them.
on that right now.
Like, when you put, sometimes when
No,
you put something
I
on
mean,
for
when you
additional
start
names,
reading it, it really
you
is
scare people off.
impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
what-
content with
what we've got,
looking at
so,
those at
yeah.
this point.
I just wanted to bring that up in case the board felt that way, but that's fine.
Yeah, but-
That's fine.
Excellent. So I have packets before you go and creating the reference sheet, so there's one document that has references, communities, and contact info. All right, 5.12 municipal relief transfers. The chair and I had an opportunity to discuss municipal relief transfers, and her hope that we could do them in a combined one fell swoop to the extent possible, as opposed to doing dribs and drabs over the next month. The one issue that we have is with facilities specifically. There are bills that we're incurring right now that we can't pay. And we're at the point now where we're not going to have services for the last month unless we do the municipal relief transfer. So if you go to your packets, you'll see the document. It's 5.1.21, and it's request for transfer of appropriation. I was advised that the Finance Committee did vote to authorize this at their meeting earlier this week, so that would be last night. And what you have is a request for a transfer from health insurance, and the account line is listed, to facilities expense, the account line is listed, and it's the amount of $40,000. See page 2 for detail. Page 2 reads as follows. First, in late June of 2017, after the possibility of addressing the matter at annual town meeting through the budget process, there was a consensus reached by the facilities and town administrator that the municipal building's landscape management was not meeting anyone's expectations. After a meeting between facilities and cemetery and parks, who had been doing the work, it was determined that the only way to assure the municipal buildings, town hall, library, senior center, police, and fire station, were going to be properly cared for would be to contract the service out. After a procurement process, a vendor was selected, and the town administrator sought and received a vote of support from the Board of Selectmen to move forward, and the board executed the contract for $25,000. A member of the board asked if we could cover this within the fiscal 18 budget, and the town administrator replied that there was, quote, budget availability, unquote, to cover the expense, with the expectation that there would need to be this type of year-end adjustment made to the facility's expense budget. Secondly, 2 years ago, when the fire department maintenance expense responsibility was transferred to facilities, there was a transfer of $10,000 from fire to facilities. However, those funds were for salary, not expense. In fiscal 18, the maintenance expense for the fire department covered by the facilities budget are already in excess of $15,000. So you take the 25 and the 15, and that gets you the 40.
And then for fiscal 19,
Fiscal 19, the adjustments were made.
the adjustments.
If you look at the fiscal 19 budget, under the facilities, you'll see that there was an increase in $37,500 in expense to cover the increase in the landscape maintenance contract, and there's the residual for fire department, and then there are 2 or 3 other lines I could pull the actual, where there were other increases that are more specific to the actual costs being incurred by the fire
Okay,
department.
so this is end of year catch-up,
It's catching up for 2 years now, the fire
Right.
department the year before, and.
but we
and,
should not have this issue going
It
forward,
is budgeted in what was just approved at town meeting.
and we're feeling good about that.
We always feel good about that.
Okay.
As best as can be foreseen,
Yes,
12 months out.
based on what we know today.
Which is why the law to allow us to transfer money at the end of the year exists.
And
Because
since, and
it's sometimes difficult.
since you're bringing up the transfers, have the departments all been notified? If you got transfers, get them in now?
Yep, we had at the department head meeting a week and a half ago. That was one of the top topics on the agenda, and we do have a couple of folks that have already suggested they're going to have a few issues. We've got a couple $1,000s I think we're going to see in Medicare that the treasurer informed me about. Other than streetlights, streetlights, we're going to see a couple thousand there as well. Cost per unit till went up this year.
Okay, and.
We know that.
More than had been, more than the increase that
Did
had
you
been
notice
budgeted.
that?
Yeah, my January bill, I'm still paying on.
Did you give them a deadline?
Did not, but
I mean, I know
I've met
that,
with you after the fact, so
Okay.
I've not yet met with them since we spoke about.
I'd feel better if a little memo went out saying that the board is anticipating that they're going to collect all of these as soon as possible and get them into you by such and such, so the board can discuss them.
All right, some of the difficulty with that is we don't necessarily know what's going to occur over the last month. So to the extent that we
That's
know by
fine.
a date certain, I would just want
I'll
there to be
take
an
an
understanding.
I'll take an emergency, but there are
Okay.
things, I mean, they've been tracking their expenses for the last 10 months. It should not be difficult to project what 2 more months is going to do.
You know, I think we've got those
Okay.
reasonably. I just would
Good.
want there to be an understanding
There's
that
things that
if
happen.
something goes
No,
haywire
totally
the last
understand.
week of the fiscal year, that there may be another one that's going to come after.
Could have a
Totally
snowstorm.
understand that.
Snowstorm.
Well, we could with the weather we can have.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we can do transfers up
So-
until the middle of July.
Yes, I know. I was concerned last year that we got so many little ones here and there at the last minute that and they weren't, some of them weren't little either,
They're
so.
pretty typical, though. I don't think, was there anything that was?
It was like,
outlandish?
it got to the point I couldn't keep track of what it amounted to.
And I made a note for myself to actually look back at that because our recollections differ. I thought there was actually one master sheet that came in from the town accountant, and 90% of the transfers are done in one bite, but between when we talked last week and tonight, I didn't get a chance to look back
And
at
some
that,
of them
but I
were,
will.
especially
Maybe I just didn't
Medicare.
understand the way the worksheet was done. I'm remembering looking at it and thinking it was a little confusing I'm used to just, here's a column, add it up, here's a column, add it up,
Right.
in, out,
Gotcha.
okay? I just want to know bottom line and
I think
what,
some of them were small. I mean, some of the excess numbers of actual pieces of paper. I remember when I was in the FinCom, it was like another transfer. But it was, but
That's
it's,
how I
But
felt.
a lot of them are small numbers. A department's just.
it may have just been that I was overwhelmed.
$194.47
coming back onto the board.
short. No.
Grieving.
But anyway, so would you like a motion to
Please, yes.
approve this?
So I move that the board authorize the request for transfer and appropriations, the sum of $40,000 to be signed by the chairman.
Do you need the transfer in the,
As presented would be sufficient.
as presented? Okay.
Transfer as presented.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Madam Chair, next you'll see 5.13, which is after-action discussion, and this is not intended to be all-encompassing tonight, but I just wanted to make certain we keep on everybody's radar screen the discussion that took place on the floor of town meeting regarding documentation. I think if we aired this year, it was, I think, on the side of providing too much information without, I think, having provided the general statement that they're all the same thing, just in varying degrees of detail. And you can pick one and stick with it. You don't need to be trying to, coordinate between 3 different documents and multiple pages. So ultimately, it'll be your decision next year when we're putting the warrant together, what that documentation looks like that goes out to folks. So I don't want it to be lost or have people that were concerned think that we've already forgotten that there was that concern. So I think eventually we should have perhaps a work session with an after-action report on the thing, soup to nuts, how it went, and,
Okay, I would put that in your tickler file then,
Gotcha.
please.
I think one thing, I mean, not to go too deep into the conversation now, but one person came up to me after the meeting, and the bigger, the long version, the full budget one, there was some comments about the font. It was too small.
It was, absolutely.
So to make it that one to be easier to read was a big complaint that some people on the floor were having, as opposed to when they were saying it wasn't like before or something, it's just that it was physically harder to read, not harder to read because of
It was just too low.
TMI, too much
Right.
information. It was, the font was too small.
It does
And,
become a function of too much
which-
information,
and
though, when you're trying to
as-
put too much information on a page.
I know,
the
but-
font size is dictated, so.
I have some thoughts when we get
More
to that
pages.
point and how to do that, because I've had to do that with some very large budget and sales,
Awesome.
so.
Tickler.
Got it?
Here we go.
Excellent. 5.14, very briefly, in some other communities I'm familiar with, there's been annual work calendars. So basically, on the website, you'd be able to go to the Department of Public Works page, for instance, and click their annual work calendar and see generally is expected that it's going to snow between these months and we'll be out doing snow stuff. And then we're going to be doing cleanup during these months, and you basically have an idea year-round. Oh, wow, this is how the DPW works. So not that you're going to expect that you'll go and see if they're actually doing it, but just so you say, oh, I wonder what the DPW does. Oh, wow, they do all those things. Water department, similarly, we're going to flush this many times a year, generally during these months. Board of Selectmen, we're going to have appointments during this month generally. We're going to do license renewals generally
Or at the
this month.
beginning of the month.
Right, exactly. So basically, somebody can look at the calendar and know in advance, this is, oh, if I'm really thinking about, participating in the budget process more next year, I should really gauge my time around these 3 months when the board's calendar says that's when they're really narrowing in on budget. So, if it please the board, I'd be happy to prepare some of those draft calendars. If you don't think it's a good idea, I'd rather not do the work, which is why
After having to stand outside during election day when they're decided to clean the streets, I'm all for this.
But was that the state? Was that the 119?
I don't know who it was, but
But was it Main Street?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the state, yeah.
But if they can
It
include
wouldn't be
that-
on our calendar.
State cleans the roads.
On election day.
That's great.
there was no message being sent there.
Well, just to talk about things that the state does on election day, that we had, I know it was a primary, or we had an election in the fall, I believe. Yeah, it was a fall election, not a town election, but an important state election. And I remember, I could not believe it, that when they repaved the other side of the lights, I mean, it was a struggle to get as many people to vote as possible, really encourage people to come vote, and a lot of people were coming in late. There was a line, as it was, as far as when the election officials, ended the line, there was still a line at the door at the closing of the polls to let them vote. People couldn't get here because they had 119 closed. On an actual state election day. Are you kidding me?
So how about if we draft a letter to
Just to the state, like, don't do
a
that.
calendar like we're doing?
Send them our calendar.
Next.
Yes. Next, you will see department head meeting discussion. Couple issues here, again, very briefly. Department head reports, the chair had asked for that to be agended. So we've been seeing a variety of either quarterly, in most cases, in some cases, people have been as industrious enough to do monthly reports. So is the request, where are they? Where can you see them? Should they be uploaded on the website? I didn't know really what your particular interest was in having this agended.
My interest is really just to make sure that there's communication, not just to the board, but to the public, too. I would say solve that however you like, but let's make sure that things are shared, even if it's just a summary,
Gotcha.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy enough. They're coming in electronically, so there's no reason we couldn't even have them uploaded to the respective department's page or even create a,
There is one, updates and reports on your page. Every time I get a monthly report, I scan it in and upload it.
Okay, so as long as people know where to look for them,
Yeah.
if you do it by department or whatever. Okay?
excellent. The next is all boards and commissions meeting. The charter does contemplate having all boards and commissions meeting. I gather that it had been done in the past at some point, but quickly died on the vine and hasn't really been,
Well, what was
I've got
encouraging
sense.
to me was, remember the meeting that you had, it was John Barrett asked for the
on the
the
org chart.
meeting, on the org chart
Yep.
thing. And what was encouraging to me was the number of people that came. So I'm just thinking it might be a good idea to try to schedule those on a regular basis, you know? I mean, you're charged with doing that, so I'd leave that to you with, you know, how you do it. But I think things might come up in discussions that would be important, you know? Jerry?
I do have one question for Kim, and she wanted to know what exactly do you want from the master plan so that they could be prepared for, you know, what this item is for? What is it you really want from the master plan
For
people?
which item?
For the one that we're on right now, for all boards and commissions, she wanted to know what do they want from us? What type of information do you want from her?
Which one are we
It's
looking at?
5152? All boards and commission meetings?
That was not specifically for any one report or anything like that. It was, I think that the charter really kind of called for it to be, instead of operating in silos, have an opportunity to all come together and
And
prepare an agenda so that everybody could talk about what's going on or give a brief summary of what they're
brief summary
doing.
of what they're doing? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and we hadn't really talked about it any further, and I'm sure Mr. Kreidler will have some
yeah, it's
thoughts on
born,
it.
it's born out of 4.2J
Yeah,
of the charter, which is under the town administrator, section 4, to coordinate the activities of all town agencies serving under the office of town administrator and the office of the board of selectmen, with those under the control of other officers and multiple member bodies elected directly by the voters. For this purpose, the town administrator shall have the authority to require the persons so elected or their representatives to meet with the town administrator at reasonable times for the purpose of effecting coordination and cooperation among all agencies of the town.
I think it's a good idea.
You know,
Based on
so
some of the
I-
boards I've talked to.
and I'm looking at it as it's an invitation for, you know, all of the community leaders to get together and talk about the things that are most important to them at the time.
Okay, well then I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but it kind of relates to. Maybe I gotta wait till I get there, 5.4.1.
Goals and objectives.
Yeah, I mean, is that kind of the same?
No,
No?
we'll get there.
Okay. Fine.
So Madam Chair, I've seen in some communities where that's an annual kind of summit. for
I
lack
was
of a better
thinking like
descriptor.
every 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, and it's done off-site, so it doesn't feel like there's a, you know, a sense of like, another meeting in that same building. So, you know, you reach out to a business or facility in the community, and you hold it off-site, and
I think that,
It
I
kind of-
think you should put the whole thing together, because it says it's yours. If you'd like advice, I'd be glad to give it, but
always willing to accept advice. Excellent, thank you. This one is just a silly thing, but just looking for a preference from the board. Department head meetings have been held on the week before, generally, which would have been last week if we had held the meeting, the week before Selectmen's meeting, which would allow me to gather information from the departments, anything of particular import I could then agenda to speak with the board about. Alternatively, could have department meeting the Tuesday after the board meeting, so I could take any directives from the board that need to go to the department heads. I just don't know if you had a preference, front-loading it or back-loading it.
Well, if you're talking about splitting up the meetings from a regular meeting and a work session, I think before would be.
This is just internal to us. You don't have any obligation to attend these, it's just.
No,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm saying, but to get it on the agenda, I think.
what I think Wayne is saying is what I was just thinking too, and that is, we were just talking about putting all of the business at the first meeting of the month. It would probably make sense to have it before that. She dug something up, didn't she?
Killing me. Killing me, Smalls. The town administrator shall coordinate and schedule monthly department head meetings on the first Tuesday of the month and report all agenda topics and discussions to the Board of Selectmen at their regularly scheduled meeting. That actually wouldn't, unless we did Mondays, then we've currently been doing Tuesdays for department meetings, so we have to do the first Monday in order to get the report out.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
Is that in the policies?
it is.
Whatever,
It's 16.27.
whatever works, whatever
My
works.
thought is that, since that is the town administrator's opportunity to talk to the department heads about a number of things, that I think whatever works for the town administrator, I don't think we should
I agree.
try to micromanage on when he's gonna meet with the department heads. I think whatever
agree.
works, and he might need to meet with them more than once, or get on the phone with all of them after he already met with them,
Sure.
depending on what kind of weird stuff we come up with. So, which is a daily event.
I agree. Wayne?
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Next, you jump to 5.16, positions funded, not yet filled. So you have land use coordinator, part-time IT assistant, police patrol positions, human resources, part-time department assistant at highway. And additionally, I was reminded by Jim Smith, we have an operator and a laborer position, excuse me, a truck driver and a laborer position in the highway department as well. So, land use coordinator, this is one that we advertised last year, received some feedback, not a lot. Had one that was interested, was then discussed with members of the planning board. So there was a lot of cross-pollination because we were there at the same time. Nothing active or live on that front now. Now that town meeting has come and gone and the position is funded, it'd be appropriate to go back out on it. I know that a sub-topic on this relates to the housing authority. Chairwoman of the Housing Authority, Ms. Schifrin, has, I think, been consistent over the last month at least, if not a little longer, in her interest in having staff support for the Housing Authority. Her statements to me were that the land use coordinator position is charged with providing that support. What I've discovered is that the land use coordinator position isn't charged with that. It may be that Karen, the prior incumbent, provided support, but there are boards and commissions listed in the job description that say where the support is to be provided, and the Housing Authority is not one that is listed. I did find a file where in 2015, there was an edited version of the job description where Housing Authority was added, but it's a draft that never went anywhere, apparently. It was definitely never approved by the select board, so I'd like to be able to respond back to Ms. Schifrin regarding whether or not the land use coordinator position, in your estimation, should be expanded to include providing support to the Housing Authority.
Well, my opinion is that it is related to land use. I mean, if it's to use the land for housing, that's a land use. And when, actually today, when I was looking through some of the stuff from town council, you see that some of their expertise is in things like land use and conservation and housing. So they kind of lump those kinds of things together as expertise. So my feeling is that if somebody has another suggestion, I'm willing to listen. I think my biggest concern is that in doing some of the liaison work, and it's really another reason why I'm saying, hey, we have to have these all board meetings. There are some boards that don't have a budget even, you know, which means that they can't pay for going to any kind of trainings.
Which would be taken up in the budget cycle.
Exactly,
But that's what I
but,
want to be cautious of, because
But
it
that's
becomes a slippery-
Fine, meant for that.
but I understand, but let's think about this for a minute, okay? you've got volunteers who put their hand up and run for a position, but they're not necessarily born and brought up in that profession.
Right.
Okay, they need someone on the town side, I think, that does have some background and that is going to give them the kind of support they need. I'll be honest with you, when I start adding up the amount of time that I spend, not anywhere near what I could spend doing this stuff, but it's not my full-time job, So, I feel empathy for that. And then to feel like there are boards that don't have a budget, well, yeah, they have the right to submit a budget, but if nobody's ever done that before, they don't even know how to go about it. So what are we doing to help these other elected boards of volunteers who we desperately need to keep?
So should we have administrative support for all of our committees? All of our elected committees and volunteer boards? Should all of them have administrative?
That might be a possibility. Do you
Well,
know? Yeah.
Because I know like the finance committee does quite a bit of work and they do it themselves. And
Exactly.
Housing authority, not to pick on them, but they're not managing any housing. They're doing.
I think it's just a matter of just even for people to be volunteering that already have full-time jobs, to have to put together all of these agendas, to type up the minutes, to make sure that, when I think back, Karen was like invaluable
She was abused.
in terms of all of the
Yes.
things.
Yes, she was abused.
In terms of all of the things that she provided help with, because she was a walking encyclopedia and knew all about those things, and she watched out for the volunteers.
My point is that
And we lost her.
that was outside of the scope of her job description, is the point I'm making.
That's fine, then
Yeah.
rewrite the job description, is my solution to that, and then we'll figure out how we're gonna pay for it.
Okay, so should we add all of the committees, the land use coordinator will do the administrative work for all of our committees that do not have staff?
I think that someone who knows land use needs to be consulted to say, what are the areas of expertise that this person needs to have?
Zoning, planning, and conservation. Period. Pick a
Okay,
community. That's what the land use
I
coordinator
think maybe
is.
I'm thinking that maybe we should table adding another committee to the land use coordinator, since we're talking about the things that you're concerned about, that the volunteer committees don't have somebody, that doing agendas, doing the minutes and all this stuff that. We have a lot of, I think maybe we should have, in a work session, maybe to discuss about the administrative support for all of our committees rather than just piecemealing it. Because we could find ourselves in a
Get back to me.
position where we're gonna staff one committee and then, okay, next week it's gonna be another committee. I think we should, if we're gonna do that, then we have a whole.
I think we need to
lot of
look
volunteers to
across
talk about.
all of the other boards and committees and assess what their needs are for clerical or specific expertise, and build it from there. Okay, which I think is what Cindy's
I agree with that,
saying,
Yeah, but
okay?
if we're gonna
So-
add something to a job description for one, we should really talk about it in a blanket.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you, I hear you. I'm fine with that. Wayne?
I defer to you.
Okay, if you were gonna ask me, what does a land use coordinator do? Got
Housing
me,
authority.
Planning,
huh?
it's not the housing
It's not a-
authority.
Got nothing to do with housing, land use.
But it's like, you just need to be able to figure out what kind of support do they need? And then where does that come from?
And I know that
Okay.
our master planning committee would like to have somebody, I don't know if they already do, our FinCom, which could
And,
use
and they've
administrative
talked about
support.
that before as well.
Capital, definitely. There's a lot of committees that I think we should really look at the administrative support for all of our committees.
So how's that for a task for you? But meanwhile, are we gonna repost for these?
I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what was included in the post specifically on this one before I did, if there's gonna be any suggested edits. But yeah, these are set to go.
So the question really that remains, because what we're talking about is land use coordinator and whether or not the land use coordinator position supports housing.
Correct.
I think it does not in the job description, so.
Posted as
And it should.
Lori, you missed part of it. What we're talking about is, we were really, and this is my opinion, but we were blessed to have had Karen Chapman, because she took on things that were outside of her job description.
Was
And-
Kathy as well?
And Kathy too, right? And it's like, okay, how should it be? Because we want to build it the way it needs to be, not just for the housing authority, but for the other boards and committees that need that same kind of help and expertise. So there's two parts of it. One is, regular clerical help and that kind of burden, but also how much professional expertise you as a board need, okay? Because I know you've run into a few little things, or not so little things of
Right.
late, that make it difficult, so,
Only because I was not aware and staff had taken care of it before. Okay,
Yeah.
as far as things that are administrative and have to do with other
Well,
agencies.
see, that's where it splits out. There's administrative, which is, I look at as basic clerical stuff, and also expertise having to do with your particular board or committee.
Right.
And that's the part that we need to kind of split out and address separately, I think. How do we get that? What is the level of expertise that's needed by each board and committee, and how do we recruit for that? How do we get it? The good news is we'll move forward with that. The bad news, I'm afraid, is that it means that we're not necessarily going to have somebody tomorrow, okay?
We do have a meeting that is being scheduled with the Housing Authority, right? Coming up.
Yes. I don't,
So,
is that when it ended up to be? Well,
Yeah.
this is Jim and I think, had agreed to.
Oh, did you agree to that?
I'm hearing it, so if June 6th, I know we have a selectmen's meeting on the 5th, so.
It was sent out, it was sent out, 2 dates were sent in an email. Before,
I didn't get a confirmation, that's all.
I didn't either. I
Okay.
sent out 2 dates.
All right, so
I
we
think we
can
were
work.
waiting on if your committee members could make it. I think that was the thing that,
We have a meeting on the 6th of June. The agenda's not posted, but I have the room. We have the great hall is booked. Right, Caroline?
I believe,
Yeah, I got a response back.
it was the 6th.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a Wednesday.
yeah. It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday rather than our normal.
No, not planning board.
No, that's.
I'm talking about Townsend Housing Authority.
Oh, sorry. Was it the same night?
I don't have anything listed yet,
No,
which to me
planning is
means it
on
wasn't
13th.
confirmed, but we can work on that
13th, yeah.
outside of the meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I would like to speak on behalf of the planning board. I was asked by Lance, who was unable to be here, to bring up the land use coordinator position. It seems to us that feet have been dragged. We had 3 very, very good candidates that were not even interviewed for that job. We feel our administrator needs the help. She's very good at what she does, but she doesn't have a lot of experience in public office. She's smart and she'll learn with some help from other people. Now, this position should have been filled a year ago, a year and a half ago, and it's just, people aren't even being interviewed for it. The board feels that we need to fill this position.
Okay, we're gonna post it again, right?
But I won't let that comment just hang. I'd love to know the 3 candidates that Lance or any other member of the planning board believes weren't interviewed or weren't considered, and I'd be happy to respond as to why. To the extent that they exist, they weren't. So just let the record be clear. I'd love to know what you're talking about. I'd be
Okay,
happy
I'll
to
have
respond.
Lance contact you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so, but we are gonna post for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's,
Lance did say that he talked to you, and one
Okay.
of them, we all,
But
well, okay, we want to discuss.
I don't wanna go there. I'm trying to, I really wanna focus on moving forward,
Yeah,
not what happened in the past, okay? So, new slate, let's move.
but just so that you know, I don't know who takes care of the board downstairs, but there is a land use coordinator position posted. It's June of 2017, and it's still on the board, but it's not on the website.
Okay, well, I think we all know that just posting it internally is not going to get us
No.
where we need to go, so.
Correct.
If you could just give us a plan for where you're posting, when it's posting, and all of that. But at this point, land use coordinator doesn't sound like it's going to support the housing authority.
And my hope would be that on the meeting of the 6th, when I think we all have a better sense of where the housing authority believes its position today and
We
intends
need
to be
to
going in
talk
the future.
some
We'll have a
details,
better
yeah.
sense
Yeah.
about what that workload looks like.
Yeah, just to let everybody know what's happening, Lori had reached out to me as liaison, and Jim and I have talked back and forth with her as to how we can get to the point of giving her some support in a couple of areas. And one of them being who supports them in terms of making sure that things get done, what needs to get done sometimes too, so.
If you don't mind, Sue, I just wanted to speak to Chris on the land use coordinator posting, because I came up here in October, and that's when we were recruiting for the planning board assistant, and there were 3 or 4 applications that were packaged in with that were considerations of land use coordinator, and Jim had actually asked me to schedule them, and 2 were no longer interested. 1 just never got back for a confirmation, and then we had an application that came in, 2 months ago, I think? And I reached out to them because they looked really promising and we had no reply. So I think there's some miscommunication in that Lance sees these applications coming in, but it doesn't mean that we haven't reached out to them to try and get them in to interview. It's
So we've got some
on a job
communication
market
stuff.
right now.
We've
Yeah.
got communication
sure.
to work on,
We
okay?
had the MMA website, it was advertised on in the newspaper, so if anybody knows of anywhere else, if we're gonna go back out, you'd like it posted, then,
I would-
you know.
I would
Are you
make
talking
it,
about the Beacon?
Yeah, we
Okay.
posted it in
Yeah,
the
the
Beacon.
website.
And the website, okay.
and I would make the suggestion that somebody else had made a while ago, and that is to go to some of the colleges. You've got a lot of young people graduating with, they could have had intern experience. There are people that are interested in going into municipal government. They have the backgrounds that we're looking for. And that might be a good place for them to start a job.
As a rule, I've been sending things to Clark's MPA program.
But I mean, I would share it with some other schools as well. But that's just my opinion. I mean, there's lots of young people coming out of college that would like that kind of a starter position. I'm not saying we're gonna retain them for years and years, but you never know.
Well, I'd hope they have a little bit of experience.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, you know, if, you know, usually you get a major and you're expected or hope for going out and doing some kind of an internship first. So by the time they're graduating, I think they've got to have some practical experience. And those are the ones that we're looking for. Okay, especially the amount of money that we're paying. It's not, you're not gonna get a veteran out there unless it's somebody that's already retired from another job. And that might not be a bad idea either.
Gotcha.
Okay, where are we?
5.17, AV equipment surplus designation. I did have, I don't see it in my packet, so
I didn't see anything.
I thought we had an email from Mark on it. I apologize, I'll get this to you at your next meeting.
Okay.
We can just pull this until the next meeting. Just so you know, we cleaned out an old closet, and there was a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that is probably more historic in value than
Okay.
current. You just need to put it before you, obviously, to
Put it in the museum.
be able to dispose of it.
Okay, 5.2, Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, and reports. I have a couple of things I wanted to mention. Saturday, June 9th, the MMA is doing a new selectmen workshop.
Yes, I got that today.
You got it? Good. Did you get a
Yeah,
copy
I got a
of
big
this?
packet of stuff today.
Nice, excellent, okay. I just want to call the board's attention to an article right on the front of the May edition. Court clarifies, quote, deliberation in open meeting. I thought it was an interesting little article, and there are some really good articles in here, so I wanted to,
Have a May beacon?
yeah, it was in my,
Usually we all get one.
Yeah, I got a big packet today, so.
I didn't get, it's not in my box as of,
I got this
Tonight.
to my home. They have my home,
to your home?
yeah,
Wow.
Fancy.
I have
anyway.
to contact them and find out how come I'm not getting one. I didn't get,
Yours came from Jim's came.
oh, interesting.
Maybe it's just a way that,
You've
you
been getting it
usually
before,
get
though.
it,
Yes.
don't you?
This is the first one I haven't received.
They've been sending them.
I'd give you this, but I really.
Going to get one? I wonder if,
Just call them, Devin.
well, it took me a year to get me off the finance committee and onto the board of selectmen. So. All right.
I found them really responsive. Anyway, that's a Saturday meeting. It's not,
No,
it's,
I mean, probably, because I was on a second after the, I think that has kept things screwed up.
so if you want to go to, that is, it's a
No,
refresher.
I'd like the selectmen's
well.
retirement workshop.
I may go.
I've been on 2.5 years now, I don't think
I may go as well, so I don't know if you're planning
I
on
do
going.
recommend
that was the first I saw of it, so.
Okay.
I think that's a new workshop. I've been going to the annual Selectmen's Association meeting since I got on. In fact, I think I started
This is
doing
one
that.
that I missed last year, and they're really good, because they kind of,
Can more than one of us go, though?
yeah, if it's a training, they
But
can,
there's,
yeah.
The one I do really recommend is, even though with the Board of Selectmen, I think Carolyn sent a,
Yes,
and then we
that
got a
was the other
DLS notification as well, that the new officials finance workshop, which I recommend
And
that
that's
Board of Selectmen should get that
Thursday
as well.
before that, so,
That's gonna be tough.
and I work on Thursdays, so I can't do that, but,
And we can also, I mean, if we can't get to that one, the Finance Association's annual meeting is the week before or after the Selectmen's Association annual meeting in the fall, in September, October. And that's an excellent one to go to, because it's geared towards, it's really geared always, it's really, I've not seen any of the workshops that are really geared towards experts. Because there's always a turnover on selectmen and FinCom, so a lot of the workshops are pretty basic and easily understood, so, and they're all workshop, both the Selectmen's Association annual meeting and the FinCom, or the Finance Association annual meeting is really, I highly recommend it for Wayne.
Okay.
And so, to go to either one or both.
Good to do that stuff.
And then the convention.
Board meeting calendar, golly gee willikers. Board meetings, okay, well, we're talking about getting to the point where,
Sleeping bags and cots.
yeah, no.
Beyond.
Before the 1st of July, we're gonna have this
5212.
5212.
5-2, yeah.
What are we talking about now?
Where we were.
She didn't know where we were.
She got
Oh.
lost.
5212.
We're going too fast.
Sorry.
The sun's still
We're
up.
getting to the point where my goal is by the end of June, or our last meeting in June, which should be the 19th, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we have June 5th and June 19th. By the 19th, we should have a solid calendar put together. And hopefully it'll be based on your suggestion about first meeting of the month is for this,
Business and
and then any other meeting would be for...
Can I throw a wrench in immediately?
You may.
July 3rd is the first Tuesday in July,
Mm-hmm.
not smart.
with the 4th being in the middle, being Wednesday.
There'll be a lot of people taking that
I would
as a long weekend.
ask us right now, since it's still May, to, as we're looking
To meet
forward
on
on
the 10th?
scheduling, that we skip it, that we do not have a meeting on July 3rd.
There are 5 Tuesdays that month anyway, so we can,
We
But
can do,
if we don't want to do necessarily, it's up to the chair and Jim and everything that happens, but I don't think we want to go from the 19th to the 10th. Especially since it's the end of the fiscal year.
I'm fine with that.
Often the FinCom works every Tuesday, or every week in order to sign those transfers.
that we're going
So
to,
I don't know if
We'll
we
see what
want to
see what
plan for
things
the
look like
20,
For the 19th, we'll see what things look like, but knowing right now that we're not gonna do the 3rd, is that fair? Because people might be 4th of July.
yeah, I mean,
I
I would
would-
like not to come on the 3rd, but if we can probably plan to be here on the 26th and the 10th, or the 26th,
No, 17th and 31st.
but going all
She's
the
looking
way,
at June 26th.
no, June
I'm talking about
26th
June
is what you're
because
saying.
we don't
That we
want to...
might need to do
We
that.
can't go a month without a meeting. I mean, that would be, Carolyn, yeah, we can.
Well, we can, we've done it before. The 26th,
The 10th
10th and 24th.
and the 24th.
6/26, 7/10. And
7/24.
I'm going to say 7/24, maybe.
That'll then put us in good stead for the 1st and 3rd again in August.
Yes.
We'll be at the 7th of
Okay.
August and the
We'll still be-
21st.
So
Every other week,
7/24 if
We'll have the 31st
necessary. All
off, and then,
right?
Gotcha.
But I will say the 26th and the 10th. I would ask, though, I had an email from Barbara, I think, asking about,
Yes, the borrowing
borrow.
for the water department.
I don't have the,
I'll pull it up now.
we had an article on, for borrowing for the water department, and if we need that for July 1, are we okay?
All right, she writes, I was recently notified the water department would like funds available for Article 10 at the beginning of July. Can you please tell me if there will be a meeting on Tuesday, the 3rd, or July 3rd, or July 10th? Either date will work, so the 10th is fine.
Okay. So can you just let her know, please? So 26th of June and the 10th of July are definite, and 7/24 is a maybe. Because there have been times when we have not even met in the summer. 5213, board agenda submission dates and topic list, we already talked about that. When we talked about the agenda policy. Cindy, do you have any updates?
I do not.
Wayne?
I do. I've been asked to read. That's the new guy again. So
Clerk?
Memorial Day will be observed in Townsend on Sunday, May 27th. Members of Townsend VFW Post 6538 and American Legion Post 199 and their auxiliaries will attend the 10:15 service at the Townsend Congregational Church as a body. 2 parades and a band concert will take place in the afternoon. All marching units will assemble at VFW Park in West Townsend at 1:00 p.m. Reverend Mark Brockenheimer will offer the invocation at the memorial service to be held there at 1:30 before the veterans groups accompanied by the Townsend Military Band, the Townsend Fire EMS Department, the Townsend Minutemen Company, Daughters of Isabella Mother Teresa Circle 1442, members of the clergy, town officials, numerous scout groups march east on Main Street towards Canal Street. Flowers will be strewn upon the water from a decorated boat during the memorial service at Canal Street Bridge in honor of those who lost their lives at sea. Following the service at the bridge, all units will proceed to the Riverdale Cemetery for a memorial service. At both of these services, Reverend Kevin Patterson will give the invocation. The Townsend Military Band will play a hymn, volleys will be fired by the American Legion Post 199 firing squad, and taps will be played. The parade will disband after leaving the cemetery to later reform at Spalding Memorial School in Townsend Center. At approximately 2:35, the Townsend Minuteman Company will fire a salute at the Bicentennial Monument in front of the school before marching units move down Turnpike Road to the Main Street Bridge. Those who lost their lives at sea will also be honored during the Main Street Bridge memorial service with flowers being strewn upon the water from a decorated boat. Following the services at the bridge, the marchers will parade to Memorial Hall for a memorial service. Pastor Chris Jones will offer the invocation at the bridge and Memorial Hall. The parade will then pass around the common and go to the Hillside Cemetery for memorial service. The Freemasons of the Grand of Massachusetts, who will join the parade at the school, will separate from the other marchers at the cemetery, so they may conduct a special memorial service at the grave of Henry Price, the founder of Masonry in America. After leaving the cemetery, the parade will move down Highland Street to Brookline Street into the Townsend Common. Reverend Jeremy St. Martin will give the invocations at the ceremony and the Common. The invocation at the Common will be followed by the presentation of the Gettysburg Address by a Boy Scout and Flanders Field by a Girl Scout. The parade will disband after the memorial service at the Civil War Monument at the Common. Townsend's Memorial Day observances will continue as the Townsend Military Band presents a concert from the bandstand on the Common beginning approximately 15 minutes after the parade's conclusion. Patriotic music and the songs of various military branches will be performed before the Townsend Military Band concludes its Memorial Day concert at approximately 5 p.m. by playing the Star Spangled Banner. The Townsend Memorial Day observances will be held rain or shine. It is hoped that many area residents will come out and watch the ceremonies. All veterans in active military, with or without uniform, and/or members of their families are encouraged to march with the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars members and join them in honoring all deceased comrades. The Townsend Fire EMS Relief Association will offer hot dogs, hamburgers, bacon cheeseburgers, Italian sausages with peppers and onions, cold soda, and bottled water for sale at the Common on Sunday, May 27th from 12 noon through the afternoon band concert.
Thank you. Anything else, Wayne?
No.
5-3, board mail and correspondence. We've none that have come to our attention.
Nope, just this is a new item on the
Yeah.
agenda to be able to have any correspondence that comes into the board of import or significance that a member feels needs to be addressed publicly would come under this.
Okay. 5-4, future agenda items list. We just thought it would be good to keep a running list of things that are coming up. And our next one really is the goals and objectives workshop. And when are we going to do that?
29th.
I will need to be called in on that one.
Are you comfortable with that, or do you want?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll just be sitting someplace very sunny.
Okay. Thanks. To Mai Tai and Yeah, yeah, we'll be fine here. And,
On the 29th,
mhm.
is that gonna be a workshop?
This is a work session for the board.
For boards?
No, our board.
Your board, okay. So
Okay.
it has nothing to do with master plan. Okay, thank
No,
you.
But you're welcome to come and listen. We're going to work on what are our goals specifically for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Our goals as a board and include what are our objectives with those goals, so that we have something to measure ourselves on. And we also will end up, the TA will end up owning a lot of those, I'm sure, as partners here. And that will help him to direct his energies toward helping us to achieve those goals.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Try to be a little bit more objective and planful. Okay? That's the goal of the goal meeting.
Okay.
And board operating policies work session we talked about.
Can I back up 1 second?
Yes, you may.
The goals and objectives work session is at a 6 o'clock target.
Is that good for you?
That's fine.
6 works for everybody? Okay, 6 it is.
Do you want that here, Sue?
I'm thinking it might be painful for Hartley to sit through it, but, yeah.
Well, if you want it live televised, I'll be here. It's on a Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, why don't we? Okay. We'll have to listen to Wayne from far away in the sunshine,
That
but,
far away.
okay, 543, begin compiling articles for the special town meeting. That's just a reminder for us to keep a running list. Approval of meeting minutes. We have a number of them. Did everybody have a chance to look at the ones that apply to them at least? I think you're just the May 1st one, right, Wayne?
That would be the 24th, too.
And the 24th.
That was a question I had, is since I didn't participate in other meetings.
Typically, what you do is just abstain from the
That's
others.
what I thought. Okay.
Okay. Do you have any objection to take this as a whole? Or as 2 groups? How about that? Okay?
Okay. I move that the board review and approve the minutes from May 10th, 2017, March 20th, 2018, March 27th, 2018, April 3rd, 2018, April 10th, 2018, April 17th, 2018.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstentions for Mr. Miller.
And Madam Chairman, I move the board review and approve meeting minutes from April 24th and May 1st, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Nope.
If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7, I'll take a motion.
I move that we review and sign payroll and bills payment warrants out of session.
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move to adjourn at 8:22.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.